Welcome to today's Daily Walk in Wisdom, where we're in the book of Solomon and we're learning all about the wisdom of love. Song of Songs, chapter 1 and verse 7 reads, "Tell me, O you whom my soul loves, where you feed, where you make your flock to rest at noon. For why should I turn aside by the flocks of your companions?" There is a reality that corresponds perfectly and directly with the deepest desires within your heart. And we look for a connection between what we feel inside and what is taking place in the world around us. We want assurance that we fit in, that there is a place for us. You know that song, "There's a place for us somewhere." Yeah, that's us looking for the connection between what is within and the world around us, where we can find the coherence so that everything fits together, that there is a unity and things that make sense with what we feel on the inside. It's the confusion that arises when we're out of place that causes us to search for a better place. And most of us feel like we have arrived on the scene of a movie too late, that the action is already underway and we haven't a clue what's really happening. We're trying to figure out what's going on and who the good guys are and who are the bad guys and what do we do next, and we do all this when we don't really know what has already taken place. Everything in life seems so random. And when beauty comes along, it catches us by complete surprise and we get a glimpse of the king. But then just as quickly we lose sight of him, and what's left inside is longing. And this is what has happened to the Shulamite. She's seen the king but has lost sight of him and is left with longing in her heart. She longs for her first love. She longs for the one who her soul loves. This is a big story that we've entered. The stage has been set, and the stages the bride has gone through so far are fivefold. She said, "Kiss me, draw me, look not upon me, they make me." And finally she says, "Tell me." So her first kiss invoked desire for a deeper relationship, but when things got deeper, she couldn't handle it and settled for the ideas of others instead, which in time frustrated her until she came full circle and called for the king once again to have his way in her life. And we could categorize these stages as revelation when she sees the king, and then relationship because she loves the king, and then reaction because she runs away, and then religion because she finds herself in bondage, and finally restoration because she seeks the king again. So it's a bit of a roller coaster that she's on. And remember, the Shulamite is you. So it's a bit of a roller coaster that we're on. Living from our heart proves incredibly difficult. We find ourselves in the midst of a story that is both beautiful and simultaneously tragic, and sometimes we're enjoying the beauty and suddenly something comes along, out of the blue, and it attacks us and we wonder what's going on. And we don't have the slightest clue how to navigate our path whenever that happens, when we enter into chaos. And we try to interpret the short story of our life by the fragments of life that we experience, the isolated incidents our feelings and our images. Why is this happening? Why has that happened to me? Why has my life gone like this? Without reference, without referring to the big story, the big picture that's been taking place since the beginning of time. And experience, just because you go through an experience doesn't mean you understand it, because an experience can never furnish its own interpretation. And so that's why we're always looking for somebody to help us to understand what is going on. And we tend to turn to the ideas of others, and usually those closest to us, our parents or our educators or pastors or counselors and mentors, so they can help us decode what is going on. And they guide our understanding of the world. But one thing is certain, if they don't understand the big story, if the people we turn to figure out what's going on, if they don't understand what's going on from the perspective of the big story, then they're certain to confer upon us all of their blind spots. This is why so many end up misinterpreting the world around us. And the reason why Jesus came is so that we can have a true and accurate definition of life, so that it can be defined for us, and where we fit in life finds its definition. Now consider how this story, the 5 stages, unfolds historically. The Western world evolved through a recognition that we were all tied into an unfolding meta-narrative or big story that centers upon Jesus. That's how the Western world was built. You look at the architecture of the cathedral, you look at the music or literature or sculpture, and all bought into the idea or the notion that there is a transcendent God who is in control of everything. It reminds everyone, all of these aspects, whether it's architecture or art or music, we're all reminding everyone of the central elements of God's story. And so even their everyday language reflected a Christian perspective on life. They would say things like Godspeed, or they would say bless you, or they would talk about forbidden fruit. In other words, all personal experiences were shaped in relation to the larger story. So revelation and relationship were the guiding principles of Western civilization. But then there came reaction and religion. And religion led to the Enlightenment, and the reaction led to enlightenment, the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment, not enlightenment, but the Enlightenment. That's where Christian language was categorically dismissed. And since then, science has been the thing that has provided us with life's interpretation, explaining everything through either biology or physics or psychology. So instead of a priest now and a confessional and making your heart right with God and confessing your sin and repenting, instead now we have the psychiatrist who teaches us to blame everybody else. In the postmodern era, all of our stories are on the evening news, and our role models are celebrities, and our expressions have to be politically correct, otherwise we get cancelled. And the result is a world that has been sidetracked, or as the Shulamite puts it, turned aside by the flocks of your companions. Now, like the Shulamite, the world is ready for restoration with the King. The only way that your life can make sense is for you to see where you fit in with the big picture or with God's story. That haunting desire that you feel whenever you're drawn aside and away from Jesus is God's Spirit compelling you to return to the place where through restoration with King Jesus, you'll be able to join together all the dots of your life. The gospel is not something that happened once upon a time, but it is something that is taking place right now, in you, in your life, right where you are. And that is God's love story, and He's calling you to be a part of it. So embrace it, and you'll find the truest kind of wisdom that you could ever possibly wish to find. God bless you. We'll see you again soon for more from the Song of Songs.